So my company, Art of Wrap, we specialize in upgrades, customization of cars, vehicle wraps, paint protection films. We do some dabbling in radar detectors and 12-volt applications. We've done a lot of cannonball prep for people. There came a time when a friend of mine, who's actually a bodyguard, he was employed by a gentleman, I believe originally from Sri Lanka, who owns a very, very large business. He's in the industry of packaging. Very wealthy guy. He had acquired a G63 in this like lime green color, which is pretty rare to begin with. And this was when the G-Wagons went skyrocketing. They were going for 100,000, 150,000 over sticker. He had bought one. He wanted one. He actually part-time lived in Manhattan, so he brought it to a vehicle modification place in Manhattan who sold him everything and anything. They sold him on upgrades on the stereo, radar detectors, a full matte clear PPF wrap. They sold him a full Brabus kit for the car. The list just went on and on. I think he spent on the upwards of about $150,000 in upgrades on the car. So I had gotten a call from my friend who was the bodyguard who said, look, he's having some problems with this car. Now, I'll dial it back. We had already done a Tesla Model Y for this customer because they weren't so thrilled with the G-Wagon and the Escalade that they had that was done by this other company in Manhattan. So they gave us a shot with the Model X Tesla, which they were very happy with. So they wanted to bring us the other cars to kind of like go through them and address any concerns they had. So they brought us the G-Wagon. The car was beautiful. We went through it and we found a lot of problems. There was a lot of wiring issues. The wrap was pretty substandard. There was a lot of real jagged cuts with razor blades where they actually scored the paint on the car. We did a lot of work. There was a lot of rewrapping done, a lot of rewiring. It was a bit of a project. They wanted to add a couple of things. We added more sensors for the radar detector. They were told they were sold with multiple heads. It didn't have the rear heads. By the time we were finished, we had to redeliver the car. Now, I also happen to own the repossession company, and we do some transporting, and we have flatbed trucks. So we offer a white glove service where we take cars back and forth to people. You know, he didn't want to come pick up the car, so we offered to deliver it. My flatbed happened to be in for service at the time. It had like some sort of diesel fuel injector problem. It was resolved, not a big deal. I went and picked up the truck and proceeded to load up the G-Wagon. And everything was just typical. I actually took my son with me because, you know, he loves the G-Wagon. If we would take a ride into Manhattan. Loaded up the car, we started heading in. And we're maybe a mile, 2 miles down the road. We're heading down the highway. And I see what appears to be some smoke. And this smoke was kind of coming from the flatbed, not from the G-Wagon. And it didn't look right. So pulled over, took a peek underneath the truck, and all I saw was flames. And they were dropping from under the engine, what appeared to be like the oil pan. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen because it almost looked like it was liquid on fire just dropping, almost like fuel dropping, but it's diesel. Now, historically, I always was told, you know, diesel is oil. It doesn't catch on fire. Like you could drop a match in a bucket of diesel and it's not going to go on fire. So it was really mind-boggling to me. So I grabbed the fire extinguisher right away. I yelled to my son, get out of the truck. He got out. And I took the fire extinguisher, a couple of squeezes of that trigger, did absolutely nothing. And the truck proceeded to go up in flames. It started at the engine compartment. It engulfed the hood. And I was just sitting there saying, oh, Lord, do not take this G-Wagon. And I was just praying. And I'm trying to figure out how can I get the G-Wagon back. I can't get the bed down because that works on hydraulics. I can't activate that. I mean, if I get the straps off and try to drive it off the back of the truck, I'm about 4 feet up in the air. It's going to crash. This is just bad. So I actually called my friend who was the bodyguard because I didn't have the customer's direct phone number. And I mean, first we called 911 and we're waiting on, fire trucks to come in. I'm sure everybody that's watching this video can relate that when you call 911, it seems like it takes an eternity for them to show up. It feels like it's an hour before they arrive when really if you set your clock, it's probably 2 minutes or less. But fire spreads quickly and it engulfed the entire cab of the truck and it started working its way back. And of course it's a windy day and the wind is blowing towards the G-Wagon and here come the flames and they're scorching the front of the G-Wagon. And I'm on the phone with my friend who's the bodyguard saying, I can't believe this is happening. I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to tell you. The truck, it's burning. And he just didn't know what to say. He was speechless. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I don't even know how to tell him. I'm like, I wouldn't tell him anything yet. Let's see what happens here. And the fire department eventually came. And of course, just like typical fire departments, they like to do more damage than they do help sometimes. And they literally were like breaking windows on everything. Just let's make sure there's no fire inside the car. There was no flames visibly whatsoever inside this G-Wagon, yet they found it necessary to, of course, break windows. They put the fire out. The front of the G-Wagon was completely scorched. All four wheels and tires were intact, but the front end was done. The Brabus kit, which was all carbon fiber, was all melted. It was not good. We had the G-Wagon taken off the truck. The truck went one way because we knew that was totaled. The G-Wagon took to the body shop that I'm affiliated with to have it there for the insurance company. I called my insurance company, and my insurance company, they were actually great. So they took responsibility with no problem. There was no hesitation. The adjuster said, hey, whatever we got to do, we got to do. And I happen to have $1 million worth of cargo coverage because we do move a lot of high-end cars. So we were completely covered. When we started putting together the estimate, I had to get the original invoice from the previous company that did the work on the G-Wagon. And the Brabus kit was somewhere in the $80,000 range. The body shop contacted Brabus to say, we need this part, and this part. It wasn't the full kit, but it was a pretty decent amount. It was about 60 to 70% of the kit. You had the headlight surrounds, you had the marker surrounds, you had the hood, you had the fog light pod, of course, all the most expensive stuff and the most sought after parts. It took an interesting twist. When we contacted Brabus, they were very confused. They were confused because they said, we haven't sold a G-Wagon kit in quite some time. Okay, well, this was done maybe 6 months ago. And they said, no, we haven't sold a G-Wagon kit to anybody in New York in probably like 6 years. It's just not a popular kit for that demographic. And we said, well, it was done at this facility. And they said, well, that's not one of our dealers. I said, well, maybe they sourced it from somebody else. So they said, well, do you have any, serial numbers? Because, we put labels on all the parts. I said, well, I would have to remove some of the other parts. So off the back, we removed one of the pods and there was no label. And they said, well, give us the VIN number to the car because all these kits are ordered by VIN. We gave them the VIN number. They had no record. So then we took whatever parts we had, we laid them all out, we took pictures of it, and that's when Brabus called us and said, well, I'm sorry to inform you, but that's not our kit. And we said, well, this is a problem. So contacted the original installers and said, do you have record of where you bought this kit from? And they said, no, we can't help you, and they hung up the phone. So we contacted the owner of the G-Wagon and informed him. We said, look, we're trying to get this sorted to get fixed because the vehicle wasn't totaled. It was all cosmetic. Mechanically, everything was fine. The headlight wire harnesses had to be replaced, as well as the front radar detector harness, which, all things considered, not too terrible. And, we were getting to the point where we needed these Brabus parts. And Brabus kept saying, it's not our parts. Now we couldn't figure out whose they were, short of saying it had to be something off of eBay, Alibaba, Temu, or something like that. We didn't know where to go. And we were just Googling and Googling and Googling. We didn't find anything that matched. However, my insurance company at this point had approved Brabus. So they allotted about, $48,000 towards Brabus parts. So we went ahead and we just ordered the Brabus parts. So now this G-Wagon is about 60 to 70% true Brabus. The rest of it, we're assuming, is some sort of Asian knockoff. That's the assumption, because we couldn't find anything stateside. We completed the car. It took a long time because Brabus doesn't just stop, drop, and roll. These are things that have to be ordered. They manufacture them as needed. There's nothing that's in stock. And they said it was pretty much a discontinued kit. So it took about 4 months to get the Brabus parts. And then we had to ship them from overseas and pay the import tax and just install them and get it all done. And we finally completed this vehicle. He's like, fine, just bring it, drop it off. I'm just done. And then he called and said, you know what? Don't drop it off. This is how this all started. I'm going to send one of my assistants out to pick it up. So he did. He signed all sorts of waivers, releases, disclosures. And needless to say, unfortunately, we did lose him as a client. He did not want to do business with us again. And, I understand. However, it was beyond our control. There was nothing I could do. Funny enough, the repair shop that did the repair on my flatbed before we picked it back up, and that was the cause of it, they failed to put a retaining clip on the fuel injector, on one of the diesel injectors, which the diesel injector fell out. It leaked diesel down, and diesel can ignite under high heat. So it was the shop's fault. And when I had called the shop that day that it went up in flames, I called him. I said, listen, we got a problem. I said, my truck just burnt to the ground. And I sent him a picture, and he's like, wow, that sucks. He still deposited my $230 check, which bothered me the most. I had just paid him, and he's like, well, what do you expect me to do? I said, well, you guys did the repair. That's a problem. I said, so we really need to look into this. Who's your insurance carrier? And he laughed at me and hung up the phone. And then it's like he ran to the bank to take my $230, which later on I found out was probably the best thing he could have done for us, because that showed that he accepted the fact that he did the repair and that it was completed and it was accepted. So the check was cashed. I had the receipt for the repair. It was determined by the fire marshal that was the actual cause of the fire. So my insurance company went after him. Then he had no choice but to give it to his insurance company, who ultimately reimbursed my insurance company, and the claim got wiped out off my insurance. We were made whole. The entire payout on it was in the range of about $210,000 between the truck, the G-Wagon, and the misery involved. Customer got his G-Wagon back. He got a true Brabus kit, and I got a new flatbed, and we no longer use that repair shop.
If you get a ticket, the first thing you should do is text a picture of it to 305-305. That will get the ticket clinic on your case immediately. You'll be facing costly fines, risks of suspension, possible jail time, points on your license, higher insurance premiums, and a lot of bad things that they can help you to avoid. You can also find them at the link in the description below, but the Ticket Clinic is a nationwide law firm with brick and mortar offices in Georgia, Florida, and California, but they've got attorneys everywhere, and that's what's most important, because a local attorney will know exactly how the local laws work, know the people who are in charge, and get you the best outcome possible. So text a picture of your ticket to 305-305 or click the link in the description below to fight your ticket with the Ticket Clinic.